Hi everyone, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. I am excited for this year to be over. I've been doing some reflection and I'm like, you know what? There's been lots of W's, which I am grateful for, and I will focus on those memories. But in many ways, this year was also really fucking hard. So as we approach the end of the year, I wanted to also reflect on my reading. This year so far, as I'm recording this, it is November 28th, I have read 131 books. And of the 131 books, there are definitely some standouts. At the end of the year, I will be doing my favorites and my disappointments and things like that. But for this video, I wanted to recommend to you the top 5 books I think you should read before this year is over. Now, I would just consider these books like very fast-paced books, or books that I really enjoyed and had a great time with, something that really pulled me into its world and that I think can be a fun time for you to read as we close out 2022. So without further ado, let me tell you the top 5 books I think you should read by the end of this year. And I want to give full credit to Madison from Princess of Paperback. I saw her do this video and she had some really interesting recommendations that were kind of like dark romance recommendations. And I want to do some recommendations from my perspective. The first book I'm going to recommend that you check out before this year is over is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Yes, we are kicking off this list with a science fiction book. Now, I'm sure this book is fantastic in whatever format you choose to read it in, but for me, I listened to the audiobook. And the audiobook was definitely the way to go for me. I had a fantastic time with the audiobook. I think that's something that Andy Weir does really well, is break down the science and make you believe it. I have no idea if he was talking out of his ass. I genuinely don't know. But the point is, I believed it. And that suspension of disbelief was beautifully done. Now, in Project Hail Mary, we are following a man named Ryland. You don't know his name right away because you are following his perspective. And this book starts off with Ryland waking up to a computer in outer space. He's in a spaceship. He looks around. All of his crewmates are dead, and he's trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Why am I in outer space? Who the hell am I? Why am I surrounded by dead bodies? What is happening? And we follow that story of the mission that he was sent on, how that potentially can save Earth and humanity, and as he slowly gets his memories of what led up to the point where he was in space. Now, Ryland was a middle school science teacher, so you can imagine his shock at waking up in space like, bitch, I'm not an astronaut. The fuck am I doing in space? This was such a great time. As I mentioned, the sci-fi was done really well. It's something that I could believe. The reaction of humanity is something that I could believe. How Ryland ended up in space is just like such a fascinating story. I literally read this at the beginning of the year. I'm talking January 1st in my sister's house. I was listening to this audiobook. I was super sick, which is the theme of 2022 apparently. I had such a good time with it. I was actually really sick while I was listening to it, and I still had such a great time with it. Again, I highly recommend the audiobook. It is such a good sci-fi, and if you're new to sci-fi as I am, and you're looking for a place to start with Project Hail Mary. Very accessible sci-fi. The next book I'm gonna recommend to you to read before this year is over is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This has like a pretty okay average rating in Goodreads, but I will tell you the reason why I love this book is just so fun, so fast-paced, so cheesy, and it's something that you will just fly through. Like if you're looking to reach your Goodreads goal and you want some quick and fun books to read, Reckless Girls is going to fit that. Don't go in expecting a masterpiece. It's not a masterpiece. Go in expecting a good time. Just fun ridiculousness going on. So in Reckless Girl, we are following Lux McAllister and her boyfriend Nico. They live in Hawaii and they get hired by 2 women to take them to a remote island on like a private boat tour thing. They go, they do that, they encounter this other couple who's doing the same thing, and it becomes like this very hazy, dreamy fantasy where apparently they're in paradise, but things quickly go wrong because y'all, this is a thriller. There is murder, there is death, there is violence, there's ridiculousness. This is definitely like making fun of rich people. It's just a cheesy good time, okay? It is ridiculous, but it is such a fast-paced read. It's something that I clearly remember and I just know I had such a great time with. And if you're looking for a fast-paced thriller that doesn't take itself too seriously, I'm gonna recommend Reckless Girls to you. The next book I have to recommend to you is one that I read recently for my 12-hour reading vlog, and that is Wash Day Diaries, which is also nominated for the Goodreads Choice Awards. I read this during that vlog and I was so surprised by how much I fucking loved it. This book follows 5 best friends. They live in New York City, they live in the Bronx, and you are following tidbits of their everyday lives. And what is really great about this book is, number one, the art style is just absolutely gorgeous. Number two, it is just so comforting. And number three, I think what it balances really well is like found family, friendship, the dynamic of friendships, funny stories, serious topics. We tackle things like gentrification and mental health, and it just all weaves together really, really well. I'm gonna leave my vlog linked in the video so you can see my fuller thoughts and perspective, but this was a 5-star read for me, and I definitely encourage you to pick it up just because it's so easy to fall in love with these women and to really enjoy their friendship dynamic, but also because I think it covers some really important conversations. As someone who lives in New York City in an area that is being heavily gentrified, it's also, for me, that first story in this graphic novel. It is 5 stories following each one of the women. It just meant a lot for me to see that and to see other people who are experiencing the same thing and have very similar feelings. So highly encourage you to check this out. Completely Changing the Mood is a book that I was surprised that I had the impulse to add to this list. I picked this up when I first subscribed to Scribd, and I just wanted to listen to a fun audiobook. It was recommended to me after I finished Count Your Lucky Stars, and this is by Claire Lydon, who typically writes female-female romances. Change of Hearts is a fake dating story. So we are following Erin and we are following Steph. Now, Erin is going to her parents' anniversary party, and her family has a lot of tension, a lot of history, a lot of trauma, things that they are ignoring, and they ultimately want Erin to be happy and to be in a relationship. So her best friend tells her, hey, I know your parents have their huge like wedding anniversary coming up. You're not in a relationship, you don't have a date, and you mentioned that you would like one. So I know of this app where you could essentially hire an actor to be your date. So after much convincing, she does this, and she hires an actress named Steph. So Steph and Erin meet up. They decide that they have good chemistry, they get their stories straight, and they go up to her parents' wedding anniversary. So this book is set in the Scottish Highlands because Erin is Scottish. That's where her family lives. So they go up to the Highlands and they pretend that they are happy and in love and in a relationship. And we follow the story of what happens while they are fake dating. That's a really fun element of the story, and I do love Erin and Steph's dynamics, but I think the strength of the story is Erin's family and her history and how that actually connects to Steph. I cannot spoil anything. I will just say pay attention to the covers, bestie, because this is a lot about dealing with grief, trying to continue on with life while having this part of you that is missing. And Steph is connected to all of this in such an interesting way. I would definitely tell you it's equally romance as it is like family drama and family history, but it is a combination of both. If you're looking for a fun like sapphic romance to check out, if you want something with great atmosphere and great setting, this, like I said, is set in the Scottish Highlands, then I highly recommend that you check out this book because it was a great time and the audiobook was really good too. And the final book that I'm going to recommend that you check out in 2022 before the year is over is a surprise to no one. It is Malice by Heather Walter. Now, this is not a recommendation for everyone, okay? Let me tell you the basic premise. It is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, but instead of the prince, the princess falls in love with the evil sorceress, our Maleficent character. I love that premise. And I love this book. But the reason why I tell you it's not for everyone is that yes, it is high fantasy and this world is so fucking interesting. The magic system, the political conflict, what is going on within this magic system, how people are being taken advantage of. It's a lot, okay? It is very, very well developed, and you get to follow Alice and learn more about her villain origin story, essentially. How did she go from Alice to being this villain that we all know in Sleeping Beauty? The reason why I tell you this isn't for everyone is because I would say this is more of a character study. It is a villain origin story. You spend a lot of time in Alice's head, and if you're going into this because you want the love story to be the center of this novel, it's there. Their relationship is sweet. I like watching it develop, but you are not there for their relationship. And I want to be clear on that. You are there to understand how Alice became Maleficent and this world in which magic exists and she is one of the most powerful beings, how people shun her, make her feel terrible, how she becomes ashamed of her magic and her history and her origins, how magic exists in this world, why Aurora is cursed, all of that. You're there for a high fantasy. You are there for a villain origin story, and the love story is there, and they are cute, and I like seeing them together. But mostly I freaking love rooting for Alice. Like, y'all know I love a dark-haired, morally gray villain, and it's sapphic. That's all I need. That's all I need in a book. And I fucking loved it. Like every other book on this list, if you are looking for a high fantasy that's a little bit more accessible, easier to understand, well developed, and you love a morally gray villain and you want a sapphic romance, I highly recommend that you check out Malice. And of course, it has a sequel. It's a duology. I've read this like back to back. I don't know what that noise was, but there you go. I read it back to back. Like I binged the entire series in like 2 days. So that should let you know how much I loved it. But that wraps up this video. Those are the 5 books that I think you should check out before this year is over. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you aren't already subscribed and you would like to, then please do hit that subscribe button and I will see you in my next video. Bye.